All right, guys, thank you for joining me today on Instinctive Addiction Archery. I'm Jeff Phillips. I want to cover something today that is very, very important, okay? In the world of traditional archery, I feel like the most important thing out of all of it, and I mean all of it, you know, we deal with arrow selection, your arrow builds, your broadhead selection, your form. There's so many things that are involved in this traditional journey, guys. But number one, at least it is for me. Now, I'm bringing you this just straight from the heart. You have to, number one, you have to find the bow that fits you. If you don't have a genuine, perfect fit for you, your journey is gonna be full of struggle. It just is. I can promise you that, guys. If you don't find a bow that you can shoot consistently, whatever style you shoot, every time, day in and day out, whether you're warmed up or whether you're not warmed up, if you cannot do that, you probably don't have the right bow, okay? And I don't care what brand it is, who builds it, whatever, whether it's a factory bow, a custom bow, whatever the case may be, you got to get something that fits you perfectly, okay? And when I say fits you, poundage is number one. And the reason that I wanted to bring you this video is because I do have several bows. I shoot a lot of different bows. And yeah, I can shoot pretty much any of them. I can. But there's certain ones that are like magic, that are just, I mean, man, they're just a part of you. It's like you're so fond of them because you have bonded with that bow. And this is one of them in particular. Matter of fact, you know, everybody has a favorite bow. Well, I have a favorite bow. I named this bow Jenny. This is a 46-pound little carbon vapor, little 58-inch bow. It's 46 pounds at 28 inches, okay? So I'm drawing right at 45 pounds. So this little bow is ultra comfortable for me, and it's so smooth and quiet, okay? If I verse this bow against, say, recurves and whatever, the recurves shoot extremely well. Other long bows shoot good. There's lots of bows that I like, but then there's bows that I love, okay? And when you find that bow, and the reason I kept this particular bow, and it is my number one bow that I have the most confidence in when I go to the tree stand. And you may say, well, why is that? Why do you have more confidence in that bow than any other bow? Well, it's just because it fits me, okay? It fits me so perfectly well, from the grip to the draw cycle to the feel to how everything lines up on my shot, and it naturally hits where I look. I don't have to really do anything. This bow is just a very easy bow for me to shoot. So that's why I care so much for it. Because when I get in the tree stand, I don't have to think about a lot of that. All I have to do is focus on pulling off my shot, okay? And the reason I say that is Thursday, this is Saturday, Thursday morning, I hunted. A little quick hunt. I went back in, hunted along the river. I walked about 1,000 yards. It's a very long walk back to where I hunted on a ridge. But anyway, I had about maybe 2 hours to hunt at the most. 7:30 a.m., I had probably a dozen deer come up out of the ravine. They fanned out 25, 30 yards in front of me. And I was determined that I was going to wait on a good shot, a really good shot, or I wasn't going to shoot, okay? One of the bigger does did turn and start feeding my way, and I let her get about 8 yards in front of me. Perfect broadside shot, and I absolutely smoked her with Jenny. Complete pass through, 35 to 40 yards max. That deer ran, tumbled down the hill. Of course, I had to go all the way down there and get her out. It was a job, but anyway, the shot was beautiful. I was so happy. And you know, when that shot came about, I really never thought about my bow. I did not think about the bow. I did think about the arrow. That's kind of the mental thing that comes to my mind, is the arrow. I more or less, when the moment of truth comes, I only want to think about where I want to put that arrow. And everything else comes from the practice, from the shooting, okay? But I shoot different bows from time to time, and some bows it may take me a half a dozen shots to actually start grouping with. Bows like this, it doesn't. And everybody has a different preference of how they like a bow to feel in their hand and how they like it to shoot. Everybody's body build is different. Therefore, they're going to have a preference of one bow over another bow. And so, with that being said, when you go to choose your bow, you got to shoot a bunch of them. You've really got to shoot a bunch of them. The best thing you can do is during the summertime, go to some of the major shoots where they have like so many bows there that you can actually go shoot and test and feel and see what you really like. Okay. With me, I narrow it down to a bow that I'm super confident with. Once I do that, then it's all about my arrow setup, just like with Jenny here. I've got 3 sets of arrows that I actually have tuned to this bow that are tuned to perfection. And all 3 sets will do the same thing. I shoot 200 grain VPA broadheads, razor sharp broadheads. I use the Archery system, and it really gets them sharp. I mean, it's incredible. These arrows are 585 grains. That's my total arrow weight on these. I'm shooting 500s out of this bow, and I'm very, very happy with them. I can't be any more pleased with this exact setup that I have, guys. I really couldn't. And the bow just performs exceptionally well. It really does. But I've shot a lot of different ones, and not every bow really fits me. Therefore, when the moment of truth comes, I may not be able to pull off as good a shot as I could with a bow that I naturally shoot all the time, that is just a part of me, okay? So with that being said, what I recommend first is figure out a weight that you can hold, that you don't struggle with snap shooting. Now, I do more or less snap shoot. I don't hold long at all. That's just my style, my system, how I shoot. I hit my anchor, but I've already got my focus where it's going to be, and it's done, okay? That's just how I shoot. I love it. I've shot that way for years. I'm very comfortable with it. Yet I can hold 5 to 10 seconds. I can hold more than that if I need to. Matter of fact, I had one buck hung up last year in the swamps during the rut. I had a buck hang up right behind a tree, and I held a longbow, one-piece longbow, a 49-pound longbow. I probably held that bow close to a minute at full draw, waiting on him to step out, and I never even thought about it. So adrenaline has a lot to do with that, but you got to be able to do that. Don't get too many pounds, okay? It's better to be a little bit on the light side and set the right arrow up for that bow than it is to be too heavy, okay? But you've got to get a bow that fits you like a glove, that is you're most confident that you will absolutely fall in love with, that you more or less just can't stop shooting it. You want to shoot it all the time because you're hitting good with it, you're comfortable with it, you know it, you know how it feels, you know what to expect. That's what you got to do. I had a guy message me, and I'm going to shoot a little bit and show you guys what's up with this one, how I've got this little thing set up now. But I had a guy message me, and he had a Black Hunter, I believe it was, a Black Hunter, $120 bow, I do believe. And he said he was shooting it incredibly well, and he asked me, he said, Jeff, should I invest in a custom bow? I've got some on, and, you know, that I'm really thinking about buying. He said, but I don't know whether I need to spend the money or not. I'm shooting this one so incredibly good. Well, my answer to that was, if you're shooting that good, you know, you're never going to not want a nicer bow, and, you know, a more expensive bow is probably going to shoot even better. If you're shooting that one that good, that's because he's probably got his process down and shooting incredibly well. But you don't have to. No, that just proves that a $120 bow will kill anything that any other bow will. You can shoot it just as good as any other bow. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't. But the trick is getting a bow that's quiet and shock-free and very comfortable. Okay, so I'm gonna shoot this one a time or two, guys, and show you why I love Jenny, my little 58-inch bow, so much, because it's just the bow that I feel so comfortable with, that just naturally hits where I'm looking. You know, I love it. So it's very, very important to get that kind of setup. I'll shoot the little moose target here a time or two and show you what she does. Every time. I love shooting this bow. I do. Over and over. It genuinely is like an extension of me. And I shoot it so much that, you know, that's part of it, because it's just repetition. I know what to expect when I shoot this bow. I know what to expect. They're touching every time, just touching. And guys, it's not as hard as a lot of people make it out to be. It's really not. But I do know that if you don't have the right bow, you're probably going to struggle. And all week long, since hunting season has opened, man, I've had all kinds of messages, and I've read all sorts of posts and things of guys that have, you know, missed several deer, and you know, this, that, the other, you know, whatever the case may be. A lot of that is in the shooter. It's not the bow's fault. It's a lack of focus. It's lack of patience, getting control of the situation, and shooting a live animal just like you shoot a foam one here in the yard. It's the same thing. But nerves alone tend to override what you naturally would do. I mean, it's just the way it is, but that's why we hunt with them. That's why it's fun. But guys, I promise you, no matter what you're shooting, if it's an old bare recurve like I started with, or whatever, and you master that bow and you have confidence in it, yes, take it, go and hunt with it. But if you can't consistently group, and I mean consistently, when there's no pressure, no anything, if you can't walk out in the yard between 15 and 25 yards, if you cannot hold groups in the kill zone, either something's going on with your process or your bow just doesn't fit you. And let me just say this. If you can shoot it 2 or 3 times good, and then all of a sudden your groups kind of spread out and you lose your accuracy, most of the time you're overbowed. You're just dealing with too many pounds, because you can't hit the same anchor every time, and you can't execute like a machine. You just can't do it. And that's what happens. I believe that is the #1 thing from experience, because I've shot some bows in the, you know, upper 50-pound range to 60-pound range, and I might pull 1 or 2 good shots. Then I start getting all over the place because I'm struggling. I'm just physically struggling to hold it to my anchor and then focus, because that little split second of hitting anchor and just drilling with your eyes through that little spot you want to hit and pulling through the shot, you can't do it if you have too many pounds. You just can't do it. So what I recommend is get a bow that's comfortable. Like mine is a 46-pound bow. A 46-pound bow drawing about 45 pounds, running 300 grains on the front of your arrow, okay? 300 grains on the front of an arrow is the ticket. It is. If you will put that kind of FOC, somewhere around 20 to 25% FOC on your arrows, I promise you guys, the lower pounds It's more than enough. You don't need any more. You just need a quiet bow that hits like a tank. That's what you need, okay? So, guys, I just wanted to bring you this, and hopefully this has helped you just a little bit. Um, don't give up. Don't give up. If you're struggling today, don't give up with your traditional journey. It's so easy to revert back to other methods when things don't go exactly right. But I will promise you this, if you ever get a bow and you spend even a year with that bow and you bond with it and it becomes a part of your heart, like Jenny is here, if that bow becomes a part of your heart and a part of you, and you just love hunting with it, you love carrying it, you love shooting it, your confidence will go way up and you will be successful. Yes, you will. And you will be so glad that you stuck with it. But you gotta find that bow that does it, okay? That's the cool thing about traditional archery. Traditional archery is different. It's about a fella finding that equipment, whether it's his arrows, his bow, the way he's got it set up, the little things he does to it, every little thing. I mean, like you see all these pictures of guys' bows hanging on hangers in their tree stands. You know, they take pictures of it just showing off their bow. It tickles me to no end because I'm like, that guy is so proud of his bow. He loves his bow. He's just so glad to be having it hanging there in hopes of getting a shot at something, whether he does or whether he doesn't. It's still a successful hunt in itself because you have went out with equipment you love, okay, that you love. And you know, guys, I've owned many compound bows in my life. I've owned many of them, and the good Lord knows I cannot say that I ever loved any single one of them. It was just on to the next one the next year when a 2 feet per second faster one come out or whatever they could change on it. I went from one to the next to the next to the next. Never loved any of them. I loved killing deer, but not the bow. But when I started shooting stick bows, it just did something for me. And when I started with that old Kodiak Magnum, my old K-Mag, there was something about that thing, something about the way it looked, the way it felt, the just thinking back in time, you know, I mean, guys, it just did something to me. And all the time I would go out and shoot that old bow and be like, you know, man, wouldn't it be cool to hunt with this thing? I'd love to kill a deer with this thing. Well, you know what? I finally did. I finally did. And when I started hunting with it and I got serious with it and I started learning more and learning more and learning more, I fell head over heels in love with it. I mean, in love with it. And I was even in love, honestly, guys. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I was very fond of every bow I set up because I spent a lot of time with it, even the ILF bows. Yes, I had Hoyt Satoris and all kinds of bows that I was just, man, I could not wait to hunt with them. I mean, man, they were exciting to me. But everybody has a different opinion, a different way that they look at things. They do. And with me, I love a wood bow just because I love to see the natural grains and things of that nature. I mean, I love seeing that stuff. That's part of it, you know. And when you buy a custom bow, it's really special because you know that somebody put a lot of time in it. Somebody put a lot of time and effort to make that bow what it is, and it's a one of a kind, okay? However, I've owned several bows that were not custom, that when I rigged them up, I absolutely was crazy about them. I mean, I shot them and shot them and shot them. But all that led to me finding the perfect bow for me. It did. And this little bow is that one for me. As much as I really like my recurves, and I do, I really like them. But this little longbow here is just my favorite bow to shoot. It, to me, is just the smoothest and quietest and easiest to shoot bow that I have ever owned. And with that being said, I have more confidence with it than pretty much anything that I could possibly take to the woods. So guys, I encourage you, find that right one. Find that bow that works for you, and you will not regret it. You will know what I'm talking about. You might look back 2 years from now and say, man, I remember old Jeff saying something about this bow, about finding that right bow and falling in love with it. Well, you'll know when it happens. You'll know. You say, I got a keeper and I won't sell it for any price. There's no amount of money that could be offered, no amount of money to let a certain bow go. And I know that sounds ridiculous, guys, but you really can get attached to some things to where, you know, there's nothing that you could replace it with. You may buy a bow that looks like it, maybe the same poundage, maybe whatever, and it just not shoot anywhere near as good for you as what you have. So I encourage you, get the one that works for you. And if you have that bow, if you have it, if you've got that bow that you can go out there and you can hit really well with it, stick with that bow. If you don't have any problems or issues, turn your focus to your arrow setup and the other things, the things about the hunt and the other things that you got to really tweak and work on, and let the bow be what it is. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on Instinctive Addiction Archery. I'm Jeff Phillips. God bless you, and I pray that everything that I say and do will bring honor and glory to the good Lord, the one that died for us, that loves us so much and gives us everything to enjoy, including shooting these bows. So guys, I'm gonna fling one more and we're out. Touching again. Man, I love it. Have a good one, guys. Love you guys. Have a good one.